This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Good evening. Welcome to the Easthampton City Council meeting from Wednesday, June 1st. This meeting tonight is being recorded and broadcast by Easthampton Media on Charter Channel 193 and live streaming on their YouTube channel. All councilors and participants in this meeting are gathering hybrid on the executive order by Governor Baker extended to July 15, which allow us to do so. I remind both the member of the City Council and of the public to remain mute until recognized by the President. Also, for the member of the public, please remove your camera for the direction of the meeting unless you are participating in public speak time or public hearing. Thank you. This meeting is now called to order. Barbara.
Connie Denham. Here. Salem Darby. Omar Gomez.
Here.
JP Kaczynski.
Here.
Tom Peak.
Here.
Brad Riley.
Here.
Dan Rist.
Here.
Lindsay Rothschild.
Lindsay, did you hear us?
Oh boy. Here. And Owen Zara.
Present.
Please stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Here.
Pledge allegiance to the flag.
The flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. President?
Councilor Kaczynski, yeah.
Mr. President, this is an unusual move, but I would like to move to reconsider a vote we took at our last meeting, and that is with regard to the supplemental appropriation.
Councilor Kaczynski, that motion is out of order. By rules, we have to do it the same day. And before we go on there, let me start the meeting with, I will ask everybody just for stand up for a couple seconds for a moment of silence for what happened in Texas. I think that's more important right now. And for all the guns, stuff that are happening in our city, gun violence that we should have in our country. Thank you.
Mr. President, I appeal your decision. I do not believe that the rules prohibit having a motion for reconsideration be brought to the subsequent meeting. I believe rule says that the motion may be given at the same meeting. So the appeal, if there's a second, I believe this would be put to a vote of the councilors.
Excuse me. Councilor Kaczynski, I still believe that is out of order. I have the rule in front of me. It's rule S6F, and the rule I think is really clear. I think that is out of order. I think we should have it at the same meeting, and that's conclude.
Mr. President, I believe an appeal has been made to all the full council, and I believe that must be taken up for a vote by the council.
To take it, but I still is out of order.
I object.
There's a motion with no second, too.
There's no, first of all, as your parliamentarian, may I speak for a moment, Mr. President?
Councilor, yeah.
It says, a motion, at any meeting in which a vote has been taken, any councilor may move for immediate reconsideration at the last meeting, or may serve notice at the time of that vote, or may serve notice for reconsideration shall take place at the next regular meeting, which we did. Councilor Kaczynski would have had to have served notice last meeting that he wants it to be reconsidered at this meeting. He did not do that. Therefore, the motion is out of order. Now, if we are to vote on this, that means we're disregarding our rules. And I object to that, why we have rules. So I'm just reading the...
Yeah, we'll take it. Well, let's continue with the agenda. We don't have minutes. For May 18, we don't have the minutes yet. Public speak time. Is anyone here or on the hybrid mode they want to participate in the public speak time? Now is the time to participate. There is no in the public hearing. We have a public hearing tonight, but you are allowed to participate. You have 3 minutes. Please address please first state your name and address, and keep you coming to the council. Please talk to the council. Please just be respectful. Is anyone from the public that want to say something to the council? Please go to the podium and
Is this?
please go
an
to the
opportunity-
podium
Okay,
and
I'm sorry. My name's John O'Connor, Reservation Road, and I'm just uncertain, is this a opportunity to address the item, I think it's concerning the Bethlehem House? Is this an opportunity now to address that, or is that?
we have a public hearing about that.
All right, so that will occur later in this
Yeah,
meeting?
yeah, 6:15. Anyone else from the public wanna?
Good evening. My name is Doris Madsen, and I'm a volunteer with Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. We're the Western Mass group. I thank Councilor Zarrett for initiating the resolution again this year. It's timely, and it's really important. It's the resolution for firearm safety and against gun violence, City Council of Easthampton. He did this a couple of years ago. You voted on it once or twice, and I think we should review it again. The resolution will be read at another point on your meeting. I just want to read a couple things. This is from Moms. Once again, gun violence has forced its way into our schools, leaving nothing but devastation, trauma, and tragedy in its wake. We need bold action. From Buffalo to Uvalde, we are witnessing the violent, dystopian world that the gun lobby has created and our lawmakers have enabled. We hear the same thoughts and prayers over and over again, but it doesn't save lives and it doesn't change laws. We deserve to feel safe, dropping our kids off at school, going to the grocery store, walking down the street, and going about our lives. What's important about the resolution when I read it is that it's local, it's state, and it's federal. And this will really take all of us doing things, all of us showing up, all of us getting out the vote, whether it's in Massachusetts or Arizona or Michigan. This coming weekend is Wear Orange
Can
National
you
Gun...
please talk to the council? Yeah, talk to us.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm talking to the screen, I think.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
This coming weekend is National Gun Violence Awareness Weekend, June 3rd to 5th. We call it Wear Orange. Orange is the color that Hadia Pendleton's friends wore in her honor on her birthday after she was shot and killed in Chicago at the age of 15, just 1 week after performing at President Obama's second inauguration parade. I would like to also add a few things that are going on around the area this weekend. Greenfield is having a vigil Friday, June 3rd at 12 noon. Friday at 3 p.m., the Holyoke Mayor's Office the mayor will be signing the Wear Orange Proclamation for Gun Violence Awareness Day. And Springfield, there's a Save Our Streets Springfield event in Forest Park from 11 to 4 on Saturday. It's a children's event. It's in we're there as a community partner of MORE, an organization of gun survivors, and they're raising money and awareness for programs for their children
Thank you,
who have
Doris.
suffered gun violence.
Thank
So
you.
I thank you very much, and I thank Councilor Zarrett.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public here? Before I go to the ranking Peters, seeing none. Shelby Lee.
Hi, Shelby Lee. I'm in Ward 4. I want to talk about the proposed school budget narrative. The narrative of a budget cut is not accurate. It's a budget draft only that's been released. The council needs to speak up and make efforts to inform and guide the school committee and the public. The school budget for FY23 is still an increase of $781,885 over the previous year's requested budget, representing a 4.63% increase. And of the $18.45 million requested from the school committee for FY23, the suggested budget from the mayor is not that far off at $17.89 million. There's also more options than cutting teachers to address personnel funding. Administration has large paychecks and many negative reports. For example, the principal has repeatedly stolen electricity from the city to charge a personal vehicle and continued to do so with no repercussions after being caught multiple times. Counselors, you need to make a better effort to not accept information at face value. For example, Counselor Zarrett wrote a flawed op-ed about the school budget that's continuing to fuel misunderstanding and seems like the motive was opportunistic campaigning. Counselors need to start by admitting when you don't understand why you're being asked to just rubber stamp funding requests. And you need to question spending. You need to question department members and request all relevant records and documents. We're not expecting you to be budget experts, but we expect you as paid elected representatives to not accept information at face value and to question the information and ask for relevant documents. You also need to exercise control where you can in the budget, even if that means losing grant money when something is put in front of you that did not go through an open public process. The purchase of luxury vehicles with city funds against the desires of the community is also fueling a misunderstanding around the school budget funding. You need to make more of an effort to look critically into the things that come to you, and you need to make more of an effort to include the public in these processes. The public is actually a great informational resource to you if you make it easier for them to be accurately informed and don't willfully misinform them. Additionally, I want to address Councilor Rist. He was on mic at the beginning of this meeting saying that he didn't want to sit where he was in the order of the council so that people wouldn't know if he was on Facebook. And I don't think that's an appropriate way to spend your time during these meetings or when you're proceeding over budget votes. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelby. Kira?
That'll teach me.
Thank you. My name is Kira Henninger, and I live on Maple Street in Easthampton. Before I read what I wrote, I would just like to address Shelby's comments. I'm a parent in Easthampton.
Just talk to the council, please. Don't answer anyone else.
Okay, I would like to say that I am a parent in Easthampton, and I have been advocating for the school budget. It is a cut to services. Even though the proposed budget is an increase in dollar amount, it still cuts essential services needed for our students and staff in the midst of a pandemic. Expenses go up every year, and salaries for teachers go up every year. Transportation costs went up, doubled this year due to the move to Mountain View. There are a lot of factors impacting the budget, and the school committee's approved budget ensured level services, whereas the mayor's budget proposes a cut to those services. I just wanted to make that very clear. I am so grateful to see Councilor Kwasinski proposing Easthampton City Council adopt Chapter 329 of the Acts of 1987, Sections 1 and 2. I believe in democracy and the importance of checks and balances in government. City Council has the essential function of fiscal and fiduciary responsibility for our city and our expenditures. You are empowered to reduce and eliminate expenditures that you deem unnecessary, too expensive, or otherwise harmful. To fully live in the democratic principles of checks and balances, it is critical that you also be empowered to increase funding where you deem it necessary. This important rule change increases local control of the school district budget by empowering City Council with a 2/3 vote to increase the school budget if so recommended by the school committee, and keeps the city budget within the property tax limitations. As a citizen of Easthampton, I believe this rule change is necessary for good government, healthy civic engagement and discussion, and empowerment of City Council. Thank you for beginning the process to adopt this rule change, and thank you for your service to the Easthampton community.
Thank you, Kira. Thank you, Kira. Councilor Kristen Strizo. I don't know, she's muted. I don't know how to unmute her. All right, well, she figured it out. Donovan Lee?
Hello, my name is Donovan Lee. I'm a resident of Ward Ave here in Easthampton. I just want to talk about how the mayor and city council of this town have been purposefully underfunding our departments, planning on giving them money throughout the year using supplemental appropriations. This form of budgeting is not transparent to our community. If the city government does not stick to the budget that they give us, the people of Easthampton, we cannot know how much or what our tax dollars are getting spent on. One example of this from last fiscal year was pay incentives for Easthampton police officers. The Easthampton Police Department budgeted $219,000 for officer pay incentives and had to come back to the city council for $238,000 more in appropriation money to fulfill their contractual obligations, over doubling the amount that they had originally told the community it would cost. This year, they have asked for $493,000 in educational incentives and $37,000 for officers to get their EMT basic qualification. I question, is that actually an accurate number this time, or are we going to have to hand out another $219,000 more than expected again? If there are contractual obligations we have to fulfill, they need to be presented transparently and in full when we get our city budget. We need to know how much of our tax money this city government plans on spending this year at the time the budget is being passed. We do not need to find out in bits and pieces as city departments come back to the city council again and again for money that was expected to be spent, just not budgeted for. This is not a transparent or fiscally responsible way to run a budget. Councilors, you are our representatives to this government. You need to take steps to make sure the budget is presented clearly and in a transparent fashion. You also need to take steps to ensure the city council can oversee and moderate city spending. Thank you.
Thank you. Jacqueline?
Hi, my name is Jackie Janulevitz, and I live on Broad Street here in Easthampton. I am an EPSD employee and a parent of 2 first graders at Maple School. I would also like to verbalize my support for the legal rule change Councilor Kozinski is introducing, specifically sections 1 and 2 of Chapter 329 of the Acts of 1987. Adopting this rule not only creates further checks and balances within our local government, but it also empowers the City Council to act in accordance with their constituents' needs. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Lindsay?
Hi, my name is Lindsay Frankie. I live on Briggs Street. I am a teacher in a neighboring district and a parent of a first grader at Maple and an kindergartner. And I would also like to speak in support for the legal rule change that Councilor Kozinski is introducing, specifically sections 1 and 2 of the Acts, or sorry, sections 1 and 2 of Chapter 329 of the Acts of 1987. I firmly believe that adopting this rule will enable further checks and balances within our local city government, and this will empower the City Council to act in accordance with their constituents' needs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lindsay. Jay?
You got me? This is Jay Andrazik, Easthampton, 64 Division Street in Easthampton. I am amazed and blown away and very happy that so many people are talking about the school budget because that's very important. But my understanding is the public speak right now is in regards to the ordinance change. Is that correct?
No, this is public speak time.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'll give it up till later then.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Donna?
Good evening, Donna Cabana with Valley Community Development Corporation. I just wanted to come in today to let everyone know that Valley will be conducting a presentation at the Easthampton Senior Center on June 22nd from 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. Homeowner Resources for a Difficult Economy. We will be presenting this to seniors at the Senior Center, and we will also be broadcasting this on Zoom and presenting a PowerPoint. Topics to be covered will be home maintenance for a safe and healthy home, paying for it, budgeting, credit, and help for homeowners, protecting your investment through tough economic times, and be aware of scams and covering some consumer protections to keep people abreast of what's going on out there. So I just wanted to let folks know about this. There is a flyer in the planning department and in the clerk's office, and there's some down at the senior center. You can also access the information on our website, valleycdc.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. This is going to be for later. I don't see anyone else. I will take a motion to open public hearing.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second to open public hearing. Barbara?
Connie Denham. Aye. Omar Gomez.
Aye.
JP Kaczynski.
Aye.
Tom Peak.
Aye.
Brad Riley.
Aye.
Dan Riss.
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild.
Aye.
Owen Zara.
Yes.
Motion passes. Derby's not here.
Yes, it's me.
It's Councilor Peak.
I keep finding myself in this situation. Yeah, so what we have before us tonight is a city ordinance amendment to amend Chapter 6 by adding a new section 6-23 entitled Deceptive Advertising Practices of Limited Services Pregnancy Centers. If it's cool with you, I'll turn it over to Councilor Zara to introduce since he was he did a lot of work on writing the whole thing. I will say, I'll do that.
Councilor Sarah?
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Councilor Peak. Just a little bit of brief introduction to this item. So again, as you're all aware, and you've seen the language, this will add section 6-23 to our list of general ordinances to address deceptive advertising or misleading advertising of what's called crisis pregnancy centers. So what is a crisis pregnancy center? Crisis pregnancy centers, or CPCs, or limited service pregnancy centers, are organizations or businesses that offer limited, oftentimes, most times non-medical options for people seeking a variety of...
Sorry, just 1 second. Can you please talk a little louder so that people from the back can hear you?
Oh, yes. Usually I'm worried that I'm too loud, Mr.
Thank you.
President.
No, I see some people that need... No, excuse me, that, we got it. Thank you.
Yes, so these offer typically limited, is that good, Mr. President?
Yes.
Non-medical options for a variety of reproductive care, including contraception and abortions. Typically, these centers will create the look and feel of medical clinics, but rarely actually provide licensed medical testing or care. The names of such centers usually closely or purposely resemble known reproductive care clinics, so instead of Planned Parenthood, you might see a business called Problem Pregnancy, and also typically conveniently located near a full-service reproductive medical clinic. They'll offer clinical services or claim to offer clinical services, but those typically will include over-the-counter pregnancy tests and non-diagnostic ultrasound to create the environment or the appearance environment of a medical clinic, but with non-clinical opinions on those results. And as such, not being actual medical clinics, they're not bound by HIPAA. So all the information collected can be freely shared across a variety of networks to their choosing. The issue or the item at hand with this ordinance that we're proposing is that these businesses will, at times, use advertising that deceives people into going there, such as looking for abortion options or considering birth control, which gives people the impression that these businesses offer such services. They'll target people typically that are either economically disenfranchised and lack the financial resources for reproductive care that they can get through insurance or have the money and means to do so, as well as very typically targeting people in minority communities and the Black and brown communities. And then on top of that, we'll provide disinformation about the risks of contraception and abortion, such as abortion causes cancer, or talk about a non-medical term, post-abortion syndrome, which doesn't exist. These practices are highlighted in documentaries such as Misconception and 12th in Delaware. The Alliance wrote a great piece called Designed to Deceive, which I encourage people to read for more information, and I think was shared with the council, and also Mapping Deception by Equity Forward. Now, this is not to say that there are not legitimate caring organizations or businesses that do offer honest help to people who choose to have children or pursue a variety of reproductive care, but lack resources, and do so under a clear and honest method of advertising. So let's talk about what this ordinance does. This ordinance seeks to address the often deceptive advertising practices employed by CPCs, a $300 fine that's complaint-driven. Here's what it doesn't do. It doesn't ban any businesses from operating. It doesn't create any enforcement against centers that are choosing to provide non-abortion, non-contraception care to clients, so long as they are clear about the services they provide and do not deceive people into coming to their clinic. And I can appreciate any organization that either exists in our city or might exist in the future that seeks to genuinely help people looking to have a child but lacking the financial resources to do so. I applaud them. Offering items such as diapers, clothes, and formula to people who are actively seeking those things and providing community resources such as those is praiseworthy. This council very definitively and unanimously passed a resolution in favor of the Roe Act just a few years ago. Some of the people here weren't on the council yet, and some of them were. We made declarations of our dedication to preserving the rights to bodily autonomy and making individual choices over reproductive health and decisions. But that was just a resolution. So here's an opportunity for this council to put that resolution to policy by preserving people's rights to choose, by pushing back against their being deceived into making choices that are not their own. I want to thank co-sponsors Denham and Derby. I'll just look to the ether for him. And all the help on this from Jennifer Mckenna, who is here, who I'm going to pass this over to in a second, Carrie Baker, numerous reproductive rights organizations, Councilor Kristen Strezu, who I believe is on the call from Somerville, Councilors Maori and Elkins from Northampton, and Councilor Devlin Gauthier from Amherst. I'm going to introduce now Jennifer Mckenna, who is a representative from the Alliance, which is a organization that advocates for women's rights and gender equality, if that's okay, Mr. President.
You think you should
Thank
do
you
this
so
in
much.
5
Can
minutes?
folks hear me okay?
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you for inviting me to speak this evening as an issue expert about crisis pregnancy centers and in support of this local ordinance, which I think is a very important step that you're taking. So I want to sort of build on. Can you hear? No, you can't hear me.
Yeah, just talk to the console.
All right, how's this?
Talk to the console, please.
Sorry?
Just talk to the console.
Okay. So I want to build on the introduction that Councilmember Zaret just provided, which was really helpful. I hope, to your understanding of sort of what this landscape is with crisis pregnancy centers, to say that, again, while some CPCs make their anti-abortion mission clear and provide appropriate assistance to women facing unintended pregnancies, many, arguably most, do not. In fact, there's a whole anti-abortion movement industry working to mainstream deceptive CPC practices and expand CPCs nationwide. From 2019 to 2022, from my home in Northampton, I directed this study, the Alliance study that the council member recognized. And we studied the practices of 607 crisis pregnancy centers in 9 states. A report designed to deceive is a bellwether from Massachusetts, where CPCs outnumber reproductive health clinics providing abortion care by 3 to 1. I want to highlight our major findings for you and why they're relevant here in Massachusetts and in Easthampton, and discuss the broader context for this ordinance and why your action on the local level is critical. There's a lot of detail in the report that I won't obviously get into tonight because of time constraints. I'm going to leave a copy of my testimony, a copy of our report, and a copy of a brief that we released in February about the surveillance role that the CPC industry is likely to play in a post-Roe United States. So, our major findings. First, CPCs provided virtually no medical care, but often presented themselves as medical clinics. The 4 services most often provided by CPCs serve no medical purpose. The overwhelming majority, 95%, offered no prenatal care. Fewer than half made prenatal care referrals. Only 1 of the 600 CPCs in our study offered contraception. More than half of the CPCs offered non-diagnostic ultrasound to confer personhood on the fetus, which cannot study placenta or amniotic fluid or detect fetal abnormality. About 1/5 promoted sexuality-related programming focused on abstinence, which often featured harmful stereotypes about LGBTQ youth and non-traditional families. Number 2, CPCs routinely promoted false medical claims and used deceptive messaging to dissuade or delay people seeking abortion care. 2/3 of the CPCs in our study promoted patently false medical claims about pregnancy, abortion, contraception, and abortion providers. More than 1/3 promoted abortion pill reversal, high doses of progesterone to people who have started a medication abortion to reverse it. ACOG says APR claims are not based in science. The one credible clinical study of abortion pill reversal was stopped after 1/4 of the participants were hospitalized with severe bleeding. Many CPCs falsely claimed to have no agenda and to provide full and unbiased information. Many disguised that they did not provide or refer for abortion. Number 3, deceptive CPC practices mostly affect people planning to carry to term. Whilst people considering abortion are the targets of CPC marketing, the industry's own research shows that 80% of CPC clients intend to carry to term and go to the CPC for free tests and infant supplies, mainly diapers. Thus, CPC deception, disinformation, and delay tactics primarily impact people needing prenatal care. There's been no study of the health or birth outcomes of this reality. CPCs, number 4, CPCs typically operate without oversight, regulation, or consumer protections. Deceptive advertising by CPCs is well documented, but state consumer protection statutes typically focus on deceptive practices in the conduct of trade or commerce that result in monetary loss for consumers. Because CPCs are nonprofit providers of free services typically, those that engage in deceptive advertising avoid accountability. Number 5, the unregulated CPC industry has been expanding, and CPCs now outnumber reproductive health clinics nationally by more than 3 to 1. As we face the overturning of Roe this summer, there are now fewer than 780 abortion clinics in the United States, whole states with only 1, while there are now upwards of 3,000 CPCs. Some say 4,000. Expanding the network of CPCs is an anti-abortion movement strategy. National and international anti-abortion groups are offering extensive resources, funding, training, and marketing tools to create new crisis pregnancy center ministries across the country. 6, CPCs appear to be local, but are part of a global anti-abortion network.
Are you almost done?
Close. This is my last finding, and then I'm going to make a couple comments about your ordinance, and then I will be done.
Okay, we have a lot of people here, and I want to hear everybody.
All right.
Okay.
Many CPCs are plugged into an anti-abortion movement's digital infrastructure and are collecting extensive data. As the council member mentioned, they are not governed by HIPAA. why CPCs in this state, in our study's findings, are relevant in Easthampton. If you Google abortion clinic near me from your home tonight, like I did today from Northampton, you'll likely see the anti-abortion Clearway Clinic in Springfield at the top of your search. Their ad reads, looking for abortion clinics, schedule an appointment. There's no mention of prenatal care, but there is extensive web content on their website that vilifies Planned Parenthood and promotes disinformation about abortion. In short, right now, people in Easthampton seeking abortion care online will see this CPC and its deceptive information at the top of their search result. While Massachusetts does have stronger state law governing untrue and misleading advertisements, which could cover the conduct of nonprofit providers of free services like CPCs, CPCs engaging in deceptive advertising have not yet been held accountable under those state laws. Thus, your action on the local level to explicitly prohibit deceptive advertising by CPCs is a critical step.
Can you please wrap it up? We have a lot of people here.
I'm sorry?
Can you please wrap it up?
I will.
Excuse me.
I also want to be clear that CPCs engaging deceptive advertising, your action in passing this ordinance to make it clear to CPCs that engage in deceptive advertising are not welcome in this community is critical as we face the overturning of Roe, as the CPC industry will be intensifying its expansion efforts in states like ours that are increasing abortion rights and access.
Thank you.
And finally,
thank you.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
I would welcome any questions that
And we're going to
that members
continue
have
this
to me
public
now
hearing. We
or
have
at a
another
later
one,
date.
so thank you. Before we continue it, I just want to set that we're not going to vote tonight. The Board of Health, the planning, sent the ordinance to the city solicitor. The city solicitor have a few concerns about the language, and we are working on that. Being saying that, is any question or comment from the councilors in this topic?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Councilor?
Councilor Zaret, is the enforcement from the Board of Health? Was that the intent? And I think it should be in the document that the Board of Health is the enforcement agency. That's just my opinion.
It is.
It's in here?
Yeah, it is.
I missed it?
Yeah,
I apologize.
Yes.
It is, and they're going to have a meeting next week, pretty sure. to talk
Okay,
about
and
that.
this is going to the city solicitor? Or it
Yes,
has?
yeah,
Okay.
we send that to the city solicitor.
Okay,
They
thank you.
Resend it, yeah, so.
All right.
Do you mind if I qualify the question too?
Yeah, Councilor, sorry.
Yes, so just to be clear too, just to address that question, so this is modeled after ordinances both in the state of Connecticut and the city of Hartford, as well as something similar in San Francisco that just withstood an appeal to the circuit court, as well as just passed really recently in Somerville. At the time when this was brought to ordinance, it was felt that there was substantial legal opinion on the matter, which is why it wasn't sent to the solicitor. And there were also initial discussions about using the Board of Health, because we only have 3 potential enforcement options in the city. And we just need to have more discussion on that, so.
Any other councilors? Anyone from the public want to participate in this public hearing? Again, we're not going to take any vote tonight. We're going to continue in this hearing in July 6th at 6:15, but you have the opportunity now to talk to the council. I will give you 2 minutes, and by rules, yes, we can. This president can set time for the public hearings. We have a lot of people here tonight. I don't know how many people are going to talk, but I will give you a couple minutes to talk to the council. Is anyone from the public want to talk to the council? And please, when you go to the podium, please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Robert Sass. I live at 3 Windsor Circle in Easthampton. I'd like to first thank the council for allowing me to appear. I'd like to also state that my comments are my own and my own alone, and I represent no entity. I asked the City Council of Easthampton to reject amending 6-23 to Chapter 6 of the City Ordinance. I'm actually shocked that prior to asking for public comments, that this has not been thoroughly reviewed by our city attorney and professional risk management. I am deeply concerned that this action is opening the city and its residents to potential of unnecessary litigation and costs associated with it. I understand the same wording was recently approved in Somerville, Mass. This is far more problematic for the city of Easthampton than Somerville. What is the difference? There is no entity that could be broadly considered impacted in Somerville, Mass. No one is impacted, no one is affected. Easthampton is different since we have the Bethlehem House on the grounds of Our Lady of Valley Church, whose membership represents 25 to 30% of the population of this city. The Bethlehem provides no medical services or referrals, has no exam tables, no one wears medical clothing. They simply provide free diapers, bottles, clothes, car seats, and other items to women for 18 months post-birth that choose to keep their baby. There are no unpaid employees. Everyone is a volunteer. Many of those volunteers are residents of the city of Easthampton. They are potentially your fathers, your mothers, your sisters, your aunts, or your uncle. If you happen to be pro-choice, the Bethlehem provides support to those who have chosen to keep their baby. I think this ordinance is especially problematic since the only term that is not defined is deceptive practices. The ordinance punts the enforcement to the health department, which normally would not have any jurisdiction in this matter, let alone responsible for interpreting deceptive practices. As a resident, I am especially troubled by the potential financial risk that is not necessary at a time of unbridled inflation and much discussion on funding of our schools. Are you aware that a federal lawsuit that easily could become a class action lawsuit has been filed in the state of Connecticut based on the state's passing of similar language? Federal lawsuits are very, very expensive, especially when you're litigating freedom of speech, freedom of exercise of religion, equal protection, and procedural due process. Is this really in the best interest of the city? This is an ordinance, not a resolution that has no teeth. I ask that the city of Easthampton focus on providing outstanding schools, solid police and fire support, and improving our public works, rather than subjecting the city to this financial exposure and risk. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
John O'Connor, 23 Reservation Road, Easthampton, and I thank the previous speaker. I just have one small comment to add to that. And I just think that the label of deceptive advertising is just totally false, because if you do go to the Bethlehem House website, you will see what they do is help people, help women with caring for their babies. They help that everything that is listed on their website is true to form. And I do think that it is not justified to say that they are communicating in a deceptive manner in any way. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Balton, Westfield, Mass.
Can't hear you.
Laura Balton, Westfield, Mass. I just have a question too. I have a question about why was the ordinance brought forth? What provoked it to come forth?
Councilor Sarrett?
In response to growing, as the prior speaker, as Jennifer Mckenna explained, this is a concern across the country. And so I felt that it was responsible, especially with the growing anti-choice movement in this country, to make sure that we are safeguarding all and any loopholes for people to protect their reproductive freedom.
Okay. Well, has there been any problems
So
here?
now can you, because we're going to give you the minutes.
Well, I
So,
don't
and
know.
if you're going to
Okay.
use it, go
Well,
back
I'm
and
just
forward.
trying to
then
find out, like, has there been a problem here? I don't.
Just make the questions, and at the end, probably the
Thank
council will
you.
going to answer.
Thank you. So I'm just thinking, if there's been no provocation from this facility, why do we go nationwide to hunt for something, to put an ordinance against something that is for reproduction rather than abortion? You know, we're all here to get along. The world system is now focusing on, you know, all being, you know, together, unified, being tolerant of one another. And it seems that in the good interests of young women, older women who are pregnant, who need help, that you shouldn't be in the spirit of love and kindness and unity and tolerance to promote an ordinance that almost shouts, I am not tolerant to you. I am intolerant to you. Why would you choose that in the best interests of the town when, you know, we want to be unified and care for people of all choice? If you are tolerant and pro-choice, you should be tolerant of people who have other beliefs. It's not an attack on you. I don't think anybody in Westfield, I think it's a pretty liberal city, and people get along here, and you have a nice community. Why not show and extend love and compassion to young girls who want an option? Why would you try to make it difficult when they're not protecting, they're not giving false deception? I looked at this site too. There's nothing there deception. Have they ever created a deception? Have they posted deception? If not, I say you have a null and void concern. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, do you want to clarify?
Yeah, that's what I said.
Good evening, Dan Constantine, Melinda Lane. I will say, Owen, I'm a little disappointed that in order to bring some balance, that, you know, some pro-life positions weren't brought in here. You know, it just seemed to be like one-sided here. But in any case, I rise in opposition to the proposed ordinance. After reading over this ordinance, I do not see how it benefits the people of this community. We do not have a medical pregnancy center in town that I know of. We do have a faith-based organization, the Bethlehem House, that helps to support women and children and all members of the family by providing gifts of baby supplies and other necessities, regardless of race or creed. The proposed ordinance, which to the best of my knowledge has not been vetted by the city attorney or the Board of Health, references to deceptive practices, but interestingly enough, does not define it. Who interprets this? What is deceptive? Could this language be twisted to attack an organization because of their beliefs? The Bethlehem House is very clear on their website about being faith-based organization, and since their inception in 2006, they've helped over 5,000 clients, and the center is staffed primarily by volunteers. Is this ordinance even constitutional? Does it infringe on free speech? There are too many questions and unknowns. As far as I know at present, there are no problems in the city with this topic, as the previous speaker had said. Why are we wasting the time and resources on proposing a problematic city ordinance when we have other pressing issues that are more important to the people of this community? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? I didn't forget about the people in the computer. I just gonna let people in the room first, and then people. Yes, I didn't forget about you guys.
Okay, I want to just say thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Can you please state your name and address for the record?
John Volante, 413 Main Street, East Hampton.
Thank you.
After I read these papers and thought about it, and it just seemed obvious to me that there's not enough definition in this ordinance, and it seems as though it could be very subjective in its application. And I think a thing like that is very dangerous. It seems to me also to be discriminatory against those who hold to the right to life and the sanctity of life. There's a lot of furor and problems about this today in our country, in our government, and I think this will do only more to foment division and anger and frustration. So I suggest that you vote it down and leave it alone, because there does not seem to be any reason for this ordinance. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public?
Hello and good evening. Can everybody hear me okay? All right. So Nate Horwitz Willis. I'm from Planned Parenthood League of Massachusetts. I'm the Executive Vice President of External Affairs and also the Executive Director of the Advocacy Fund. And I want to say thank you so much for allowing me to come into your community this evening, because we tend to serve everyone across the state, including people from Easthampton. We tend to see a lot of patients come into our abortion clinics for sexual and reproductive health that are primarily people of color who look like me, who have been told that they can't have a choice, who have been told inaccurate information, disinformation, and only been told that there's only one way to go about living a life that limits their choices and their freedoms. The freedoms that we have that are enshrined in our democracy. The freedoms that allow even CPCs to exist, that this ordinance appears to support, because we know that CPCs that are like the Bethlehem House, that are offering what they have to offer, are not at risk. This ordinance does not seek to ban them, based on my understanding. Similar to the way that I promote and engage in my type of advocacy, I believe in equity and in being inclusive, because I've never had that option. I'm originally from Arkansas, and I come to Massachusetts, and I find it an honor to work with people of varying backgrounds, to work with local council and leadership that truly believe in making things equitable. This ordinance is constitutional. I've had talks with my lawyers and legal team at the national office, and similar to Hartford, San Francisco, and Somerville, this will stand the test of time constitutionally, because in other places that I just mentioned, it's been 5+ years ongoing, and there has been no legal challenges to overturn a local ordinance. I will say that CPCs that do engage in mis and disinformation still do not have a chance of being banned, because what this does is it creates a healthcare standard for everyone to work and operate in, for people to still have an opportunity to have sexual and reproductive choice and freedom. I want to say thank you for being courageous, for being intellectual and engaging with people of varying different backgrounds, because if you look at who's coming to this podium, it's not people who are at a disadvantage. It's not people who don't have parental systems. So I speak for them, because I've been in that situation before. I know people who are close to me, and I wish that they had a council like you that would want to put things forward for everyone to thrive. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public?
Nori Coleman, 52 East Street. I'm here because our freedom of religion and our freedom of speech is under attack. Bethlehem House was started because of me, actually, because I was supposed to be aborted. Okay, you want to talk about abortion? Because I was half black. You want to talk about black and brown people? Okay, I was supposed to be aborted because I was half black. Bethlehem House was started by my mother, okay, who at 17 didn't have the alternative of having a pregnancy center help her at the time. That's why she started it, okay? Planned Parenthood was founded by a racist eugenics lady named Margaret Sanger. She said black people didn't have the right to breed because they were weeds of society. The poor didn't have a right to breed because they were poor, and that white people were superior. That's what racism is, okay? So you want to talk about white supremacy? Look it up and do the research, okay? Hitler used her program of sterilization in this country. It was first in America. He adopted her Planned Parenthood agenda, okay? Don't represent black and brown people if you don't know, okay? And this Planned Parenthood has a new face of colored people.
Please talk to the
which we should be ashamed of because it's steeped in racism.
Tell them, baby. Thank you.
Joseph Coleman, 52 East Street. That was my wife just spoke. And we have 8 kids, all right? And Bethlehem House helped our family, and it also helped any other family who can't afford. We treat, well, I ain't gonna say we treat, Bethlehem House treats more Puerto Ricans and that's in need, that come from Springfield, that come from Holyoke, that's in need of diapers. They help these mothers who's struggling. You know, y'all, what you know about struggling? These people in need diapers, car seats, whatever they may need. And this deceptive, whatever it's called, practicing, what does that mean? Right. You know? It's like, we're Americans, man. That's right. We're Americans. We help each other. We support each other. We don't try to go behind each other back and put the Board of Health on people and give them a $300 fine. Right. What pregnancy center abortion clinic have in Easthampton? 0. We have a place that in Easthampton that support mothers, that support minority mothers, that support all mothers. Mm-hmm. It's like this, y'all are sick.
Right.
Anyone else from the public here in the room? Seeing none. Councilor Christine?
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I'm going to ask the most important question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. May you please start my time now. So I'm Councilor Kristen Strauss. I'm an at-large councilor, proudly representing my beloved Somerville. And I thank you so much for letting me speak tonight. I am in support of Section 6, deceptive advertising practices, and I'm grateful to my colleagues across the state for proposing it. I proposed a similar ordinance in Somerville. It passed unanimously, and I'm asking you to vote in support of it. I want to make clear that this ordinance before you does not shut down any existing facilities, yet it does ensure that any limited service pregnancy centers, crisis pregnancy centers that wish to operate in your city limits are operating with integrity, in truth, not giving deceptive language, and they are acting in best faith efforts. And if they're so upset about that, then they have nothing to hide. The model of CPCs is oftentimes to mimic actual women's health centers in an attempt to deceive those in one of their most vulnerable times in their lives, a potential unplanned pregnancy. They're known to withhold information on pregnancy. And they're known to, and this ordinance before you successfully addresses misinformation and the lack of accurate health information they're known to distribute. It advocates on the side of reproductive health and equity. And it ensures your constituents are receiving the most accurate medical information to help them make decisions about their bodies and their health. And those that can get pregnant right now at this moment. If colleagues, You have several colleges in your region, and you are well aware that you have a constituency that includes many younger college students, sometimes new to your area or sometimes the United States. If one of your constituents should find herself pregnant and is unsure what to do, she may Google abortion centers and find herself at a fake abortion clinic, which often masquerade as an unbiased resource exploring all options. The problem with this is that CPCs attempt to mimic healthcare services as clinics, free services, while intentionally withholding information about complete medical information. They staff volunteers with no medical training who oftentimes present themselves in scrubs while performing sonograms, and sometimes to underage minors. CPC volunteers often parrot bogus medical information, such as if you use a condom, you could get AIDS because of microscopic holes in condoms, which is absolutely not accurate. Colleagues, I am asking you to support your constituents and vote yes to support this ordinance to protect your constituents and have your constituents have the best respect of what they want to do with their bodies and not be told bogus and not fact-based information so that they may choose and have control of their health care.
Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you thank you very much.
Jay?
I ask that you discount the opinion of the councilwoman from Somerville, because it's Somerville. We're talking about Easthampton. In Easthampton, we have got a great nonprofit that has done so much for the people of Easthampton over the last 20 plus years. We are looking at a potential ordinance that will fine a really nice lady who is giving free baby clothes to pregnant ladies. And the ordinance is to fine her $300 every time she gives away free baby clothes. If you read the language of the ordinance, that's what it says. This is sophomoric. This is absolutely insane. And if this moves ahead, I understand it's not moving ahead today, but if this moves ahead at any point in the council's future, what you're doing is dismissing the charity of your fellow resident. Right. If you think that's a good thing to do, great. You're going to be on the ballot in 2 years. Right. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jay. Julie?
Hi, Councilor Gomez. My name is Julie, and I live in Precinct 1. And I just don't know if Councilor Zurich can...
Julie, can you please talk louder?
Can you hear me now okay?
Yeah, that's a little better.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. I was just wondering if Councilor Zurich can elaborate if the Bethlehem House is included as part of the examples that were given. And the reason I say that is because I myself have volunteered there many times. And I've put together baskets of clothes and diapers, and I've donated clothes and diapers. And I just don't see how that fits in with what you guys are trying to do. So is there any way that you guys can let us know, is Bethlehem House inclusive in what you're talking about as far as a CPC versus the pregnancy care center that Bethlehem House provides?
He's not going to answer now. He's going to answer at the end. Just keep going because you're going to have only 10 minutes to talk.
No, that's all I have to say. I just wanted to know because, I've never seen anything. And like I said, I volunteered there myself in the past. It's a wonderful organization that I just don't see how it falls into the categories that this other Councilor Shredsko is talking about. And so I was just wanting some clarification if that's what was the intention of it being adopted into Easthampton was because of Bethlehem House.
Yeah. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Shelby?
Hi, Shelby Lee, Ward 4. In regards to this ordinance, I think that if the city solicitor vets the language and finds that it is acceptable, then I have to say that I can't see a way in which this ordinance would harm anyone in the community. It would actually protect everyone in the community from future organizations who may move into the community, who attempt deceptive practices in regards to medical practice and people's general health. It would protect people from new groups or organizations that may come into the city, and as many have stated already, it wouldn't affect the existing facility, the Bethlehem House, at all in Easthampton, if they're truly just handing out diapers and clothing without using any medically deceptive language. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelby. Anyone else from the public? Adam?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm actually from Westfield, used to live in Easthampton. I just think it's funny, not in necessarily a humorous way, that you're talking about deceptive practices of CPCs when the name Planned Parenthood is inherently deceptive, because the only thing Planned Parenthood does is try to prevent parenthood. So how are we saying that a CPC is deceptive and not Planned Parenthood, when all Planned Parenthood does is abortions and maybe contraception? That's crazy. Okay, they don't do ultrasounds, and if you say they do, you're lying. The only thing they use ultrasounds for is to find the baby to kill it. Okay, you can read the studies and the phone calls that were made to somewhere in the number of 70 Planned Parenthoods were called, and I think 95% of them said they do not use ultrasound. And then a former manager of Planned Parenthood said the only thing ultrasound is used for is to kill the baby and kill the child. So if you want to talk about deception, let's talk about how this is a last-ditch effort, as Roe v. Wade is going to be rightly and justly overturned, because the Supreme Court had no business in ruling in that 50 years ago, because it's not in the Constitution. Okay, so if you want to talk about that, all this is to try to make a push so you can kill more babies. It's not about stopping deceptive advertising, because if you cared about deceptive advertising, you would be concerned with Planned Parenthood's deceptive advertising. And if you cared about minority people, you would take a look around and see where the Planned Parenthoods are located. Where are they located? Minority communities. Come on. You got to be kidding me. Come on, Easthampton. I know you guys are woke as anything and as far left as can be, but don't be crazy. Be honest about what you're actually doing, and don't be deceptive while you're trying to supposedly stop deceptive practices, because I think that's what you're doing.
Thank you,
it's
Adam.
great.
I don't see anyone else. Gonzalo Sarek?
Yeah, I guess the first thing I want to say is I want to thank everyone for coming out and speaking your mind. I think, to me, it sounds like there was a piece of miscommunication regarding this ordinance, because when this was submitted, first of all, it was prior to the leak of the potential road decision. And frankly, I didn't even know that Bethlehem House existed. None of us who sponsored this were even aware of it. Actually sounds like a pretty wonderful organization. And I appreciate the services that they offer. As I said in my opening statement, I think it's great for people who are planning to have children and who don't have the financial means to necessarily support their family once they have it, to be able to have community support. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. The second thing I wanted to say is I don't understand from some of the comments how this is seen as targeting this organization. If everything that is being done is being delivered with honest messaging and the services that are provided there are clear, and again, very admirable and praiseworthy, as I said earlier, it doesn't, to speak to one of the earlier speakers, it's not fining people for helping people who want to be parents. Again, I think that's something that should be admired and praised in this community. I think there's some fair points that have been made here regarding defining deceptive practices, and that's certainly something that could be discussed in committee between this and the next meeting. But this in no way targeted an organization that we frankly didn't even know existed when we submitted this. And I think that answers the questions. I don't think there's anything else, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Saret. We have one more from the public. Let me participate. She didn't talk. Diane? Diane Brown?
Is she muted?
I couldn't see her here. So.
Yeah, tell her.
Okay. Yeah, Diane, we have gonna have another public hearing on July 6th at 6:15. You can participate in that one because look like it's not working today. Councilor.
I just had a comment.
Yeah.
If I would.
Councilor Rist?
I'd like the ordinance committee, I think the word deceptive needs to be broadly, and I think you mentioned it, Councilor Zaret, that you're gonna look at that word term. And my feeling is, this is an emotional discussion, obviously, and it will be. The more succinct you can be in what deceptive means, the better we are. And it's certainly, if we're going to ask the Board of Health to look at that, we need to be clear on what examples of deceptive. And I don't know enough about how ordinances should be written, and I know it's practice, and I agree with the practice of getting it from other communities. But I think we could broaden that language to include better, succinct language on what is deceptive, okay? Because I think comments that it can be used subjectively by those on either side to defend whatever enforcement, the more succinct you are in your language, the easier it is to defend. So I'd like you to look at that and then send it to the city solicitor. I think it'd be better. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Peak?
Just as a point of clarification, this has already been sent to the city solicitor, right? And you had mentioned before that he had.
Bree sent it to the city solicitor because she have some questions, and from the board have some questions before the meeting. And she sent it to the city solicitor, and he sent a quick response yesterday.
Okay, so that's something that we'll be seeing
Yes.
in the future. Okay, so I'm very interested in what that is, and obviously we want to do this as well as possible. I just want to make one comment, which is we make ordinances on this body all the time for reasons other than trying to legislate some pre-existing organization out of existence.
Of course.
Right. We make ordinances about, for example, right, we have ordinances about how cannabis organizations can advertise. You could see the parallels here. That is not suggesting that we're trying to wipe out the cannabis industry in Easthampton, right? We have put in ordinances like the facial recognition one. That's a good example. The facial recognition one that says that the police shouldn't use certain sorts of technology except for in certain extremely dire emergencies. That's not an attempt for us to abolish the police department. It's us saying these are the times, places, and manners in which we think it's okay for businesses or organizations to operate in Easthampton. We had done a good deal of things about wage theft, right, around construction sites. That's not an attempt to keep people from ever constructing anything in Easthampton. It's saying, if you're going to build things, here's the manner in which we want to do it. From the sounds of what people had said, the organization that's here in town is not violating anything in this ordinance. But even if they were, they have until this is implemented to not do those things and to still do all the other stuff that they're doing, and there's no problem. The only thing that this applies to is whether or not they operate in a specific manner that is deceptive. Now, I agree. I think that there's some good points made here about we need to really nail down what that means, deceptive, because it's serious to make that argument. So I think as we go forward, that's something that we really need to make sure that we can be confident about that. But I do have to say that this is I'm saying this to all of you, and I'm sure that it's redundant, but this is a regular part of our jobs to say there's certain sorts of activities that we don't want to see going on. And that doesn't mean that organizations that might do those things as well as many, many other things should not exist. It just means we don't want them doing that one thing. And if they're not doing it already, there's not an issue. That's all.
Thank you, Councilor Pick. Any other councilors? I just want to remind everybody that we're going to continue in this. We're going to have a July 6th at 6:15. If you didn't hear anything from any of the councilors tonight, that doesn't mean that we don't have an opinion or comment about it. We just want to keep it until we're going to vote for the ordinance. So if you don't hear anything from any of the councilors tonight, that doesn't mean that we don't have our own opinion. We're going to keep it until we see the final language of the ordinance, and then I'm pretty sure most of the councilors are going to keep continuing with the public hearing. Seeing that we don't have anyone else, I will take a motion to close public hearing.
So
No,
moved.
you need to make a motion to continue this.
Oh, yeah.
sorry.
I will make a motion to continue this public hearing until July 6th at 6:15.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to continue the public hearing for July 6th at 6:15. Barbara?
Omar Gomez.
Aye.
JP Kaczynski.
Aye.
Tom Peak.
Aye.
Brad Riley.
Aye.
Dan Rist.
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild.
Aye.
Owen Zaret.
Yes.
And Connie Denham. Aye.
Motion passes. I will take a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to close public hearing. Barbara?
JP Kaczynski.
Was that to close the public hearing or close this hearing?
Close the
Or to
public hearing.
continue the hearing?
We only have one item, so this is close the public hearings.
Is it appropriate to close the public hearing, or wouldn't that close debate or close discussion on the subject?
We're closing this public hearing because we already voted we're going to continue it, but we are not, it's just for tonight.
Thank you for the point of information. I vote aye.
Tom Peak.
Aye.
Brad Riley.
Aye.
Dan Rist.
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild.
Aye.
Owen Zaret.
Yes.
Connie Denham. Aye. Omar Gomez.
Aye. Motion passes. Communication from elected officials, boards, and committee. Any councilor have anything to say? Councilor Peak?
I made a statement.
What?
I haven't done this in a while. And I don't like writing statements, but I was also hoping that that some people would be here that aren't here. But hopefully they see it on the internet. Okay. Since our last meeting 2 weeks ago, I have been met by a wave of outcry and concern about our city's proposed FY23 budget. In particular, a number of parents and educators have expressed concern that in the face of huge rises in the cost of doing business, the budget increase for the school district might not be adequate to support current staffing levels. Since this first came to my attention several months ago, I have attempted to get some clarity on this issue and have spoken to various stakeholders in the city, the district, and the community. I want to make it clear I have a lot of respect for the people, both elected and appointed, who work in our school district and our city. But what I have heard over the last few months has led me to the conclusion that communication and potentially trust have broken down between the relevant parties. This puts a counselor myself in a tricky situation. When it comes to the Byzantine details of school finance in Massachusetts, I'm out of my depths. I suspect that many of my fellow counselors feel the same. But I'm fed up enough to just come out and say it. I understand a little bit of school funding, but I'm counting on leaders in other parts in the district and the city to clarify some of the details, because there's a lot of laws on this stuff. It's natural that in a normal budget season, different parties might disagree on values or priorities. With the way that local fiscal policy is structured in Massachusetts, I doubt the day will ever come that we have enough money to do everything that people want to do. And I don't begrudge anyone for having different priorities than me when it comes to how our scarce funds should be spent. What does concern me is when I see a conversation like last week's school committee meeting, when it seemed, to this counselor at least, like the aforementioned officials did not agree on such fundamental questions as what options were available to the city and the district in order to keep our schools funded and adequately staffed. So I want to use my platform here to make a public plea to the mayor, the superintendent, their respective financial teams, my colleagues here on the city council, and our counterparts in the school committee. We have a month to figure something out before the end of this fiscal year. We have 2 weeks until our budget hearing, but if we needed to get creative, we have a month. Let's find a time and a place to sit down and talk. At the very minimum, let's make sure that we have our facts straight in terms of what options are available to our respective organizations. And if we can accomplish that, then let's take it a step further and try and find a solution to this that we can all live with, even if none of us are crazy about it, that addresses the concerns of our city's parents. We have the time. We have a lot of smart, capable people between us. Our kids, our parents, our teachers deserve that we give this another shot. I really hope that we can come together and make this happen. Until it does, I'm going to find myself in a pretty unpleasant situation in my position as a city councilor. Until I have some assurance from the powers that be that we have a plan, at least for this year, to adequately fund our schools, I'll not be able to determine the appropriateness of any other financial decision to come before this body. On our new business is a request to move $650,000 from free cash to reserves, along with a number of other worthy and important requests. I understand the importance of reserves. It's good to prepare for a rainy day. And certainly, I understand that there's a timeline thing here about figuring that out before the end of the fiscal year. But it feels like a rainy day is upon us. For me to support these appropriation requests or any future requests, I need to understand the city's overall fiscal health. I thought I did, but that was before people started talking about laying off teachers. I am begging the relevant parties to come together and work this out so that we can turn our attention to other matters with confidence. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Peak. Any other councilors? Councilor Sarah, about the resolution?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Before I read that, just 2 sentences. I just wanted to make sure I recognize that today is the beginning of Pride Month. I don't think we have the flag flying yet this year.
I have an announcement for that.
Okay, good, because, okay. But I just wanted to recognize the council's historic support of the LGBTQ plus community recently with the resolution on Gender X, and to encourage people to consider certainly the historic strides that have been made in terms of justice, equity, and inclusion with that community, but certainly to realize that there's continuing and ongoing struggles that we need to continue to fight for. And now, may I introduce?
Please.
I wanted to thank the president. He definitely read my mind with that moment of silence for the tragedy in Texas earlier a week ago. And as you are all aware, we've now twice supported, once passed and once reaffirmed our resolution against gun violence with this council. Frankly, I think, as I indicated in my introduction letter, this is something we should be affirming every year until this pandemic that we've been living in for a much longer time, certainly since Columbine and long before that, of violence, of mass shootings, of active shooters, of the pandemic of inappropriate gun use to to kill people in this country, we should be affirming this every year. And certainly the most recent tragedies in Buffalo and Texas and unnamed others that just didn't make the media caused me to submit this again. So with your permission, Mr. President, unless there's other comments, I'll just read this updated version of our gun violence resolution.
Please do.
Okay, thank you. Whereas every day over 100 Americans are killed by gun violence, which includes an average of 5 children a day under 17, and Americans are 20 times more likely to be murdered with guns than people in other developed countries, and the United States has a higher rate of violent gun deaths per 100,000 people than any country in the Middle East, second in comparison to countries in East, Southeast, and South Asia, and fifth in comparison to countries in sub-Saharan Africa, and is 11th worldwide in gun-related deaths. And whereas more than 300,000 students attending more than 230 primary and secondary schools have experienced a shooting on campus since the Columbine High School massacre in 1999 with over 300 deaths. And whereas from Columbine to Virginia Tech to Sandy Hook to Parkland and most recently to Uvalde, the lives of hundreds of students and school employees have been lost to the plague of gun violence. And whereas our children have the need and the right to go to school in order to learn and grow, and they should be able to do so without fear. And there were 693 mass shootings in 2021. And whereas there have been 702 deaths and 2,844 people injured from mass shootings in 2021, and whereas Black Americans are 10 times more likely than white Americans to be murdered with a gun, and whereas from Charleston to Las Vegas to Pittsburgh to Orlando, to Thousand Oaks to Buffalo recently, the lives of hundreds of adults have been lost in places where they should be free to exercise, congregate, and pray. And whereas our nation is grieving and heartbroken due to the ongoing gun violence throughout the land, especially as it affected our children in schools in Florida, Colorado, Connecticut, Virginia, and other states, most recently Texas, and whereas our police officers and other first responders have suffered trauma and great losses, and the International Association of Chiefs of Police and the National Law Enforcement Memorial Fund advocates for the adoption of common sense policies to assist in reducing gun violence, and whereas the largest number of gun deaths is related to suicides, in the order of close to 24,000 a year, with the total number of other gun-related deaths numbering over 20,000, and these numbers continue to rise year after year. And whereas support for the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens goes hand in hand with keeping guns away from dangerous people, and whereas protecting public safety in the communities they serve is one of the most serious and fundamental responsibilities of elected officials, and whereas each attack sees renewed calls from the public for meaningful and constitutional measures to reduce gun violence. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of East Hampton recognizes and affirms the Council's previous resolutions against gun violence and continues to strive towards eliminating the threat of gun violence and unsafe firearms policy from our community. We therefore further resolve that our local and state government representatives encourage local law enforcement to use their role as community leaders to educate the public about local gun violence patterns and serve as advocates for measures that will have an impact, provide resources to educate the public on responsible gun storage and safety protocols, provide resources to educate the public on the Extreme Risk Protection Order law as a tool to prevent gun violence, including reducing the risk of suicide by firearms, and collaborate with our police department to develop safe firearms policy. We further resolve that our federal government representatives enact universal background checks on all potential firearm sales throughout the U.S. to keep guns out of the hands of those who should not have them, close the Charleston loophole, which allows firearm sales to proceed after 3 business days, even if the background check has not been performed, enact gun trafficking measures that will prevent straw purchases that circumvent background check laws, prevent sales to individuals with a history of violent crimes or domestic abuse by ensuring that background check databases are kept current, vote no on concealed carry reciprocity, expand the list of sensitive areas where concealed carry is prohibited, and insist that all states have laws to allow that they have laws that must allow, in order to allow concealed carry in public. Fund and implement violence-based intervention programs to identify and lower risks of gun violence in communities, and adequately fund the Center for Disease Control to study the public health impact of and measures for reducing gun violence. We further resolve to communicate these resolutions to our local, state, and federal representatives via direct communication, mail, and electronic communication. We will support safe firearm policies for our community and continue to advocate for firearm safety in the city of East Hampton. As a motion.
We have a motion and a second to approve the violence resolutions. Any further discussion? Councilor Dunham?
Yeah, I appreciate and I respect the spirit of this resolution, and I'm outraged by what took place in Texas and what has continued to happen with young people in schools and mass shootings. I'm outraged by what happened in Buffalo. I think that is completely unacceptable. And I think that as a community, we need to do more. I do want to address a part of that resolution. And, gun violence cannot be parsed out from a broader culture of violence and authoritarianism, right? They cannot be separated. Because what that leads to is it leads to fear, it leads to, that then leads to the more gun ownership, that also leads to more police, right? More emphasis on national security. And the part about the police taking more of an active role in that, I think we need something beyond the police. I think we need bold leadership on the part of the community, and you can't have an apparatus of public institutions that respond with violence to solve the problem of violence. I think those things have to be completely separated. And I fully support the spirit of this. I absolutely agree. I do not agree with the police having that active of a role in this, because as we saw in what happened in Texas, the delayed response and the inaction of the police in that particular moment, it draws serious concern for me in terms of what the police are actually able to do around preventing violence. And in an authoritarian state, that only perpetuates that. And I think that we need different leadership in regards to gun violence. And so I disagree with that aspect of that statement. Otherwise, I fully support that, but we need different leadership, and we need to think about this very, very differently, because what we're doing is we're only thinking about resolving these issues and addressing this problem with one way, and that leads, like I said, to fear, more violence, more gun violence, more police, and that just continues to perpetuate the problem in its entirety. So,
Councilor Denham, do you want to amend the resolution?
if I could amend that, I would remove that, but I understand that people have different feelings, etc., but that's personally what I would do. I think it just perpetuates violence.
It's up to you, Councilor Dunham, to make a motion to amend the resolution.
Yeah, I would move to amend that.
I'm not quite sure what she's amending.
I would like the segment of the police having more of an active role. I think there was 4 or 5 lines there. I think there were 4 points. I have to find it.
There's a couple lines I can offer you, Counselor, if you want.
Yeah, it says where for further resolve our local and state governments, and then there's 4 points of the police department.
Councilor Sarvet, I know, do you want us to pass this resolution tonight, and with the concern of Councilor Denham, probably we should send it to rules to amend it, and then coming back with everybody's support, and probably we'll have unanimous vote for the resolution. I think that would be a good idea to send it to Rules Committee and then bring it back.
I don't have an objection to that. I did want to speak historically that I hear everything that Councilor Denham is saying, and I don't disagree. The attempt was to try to create some language that does show a investment by our police department to help end this. I do agree that ending violence with more violence is not a solution. And ending violence through domination and supremacy is not a solution. So I agree with you there, and if there's a way to find ways to either remove the language completely or create language that recognizes a partnership. But just historically too, this was The initial one that we wrote was created in collaboration with our police department because of the disgust of what was going on. And so I would also encourage maybe to get some input from them how to collaboratively express that, but I do agree with everything you said as well, so. But if you want to send it to committee, I don't have an objection to
Want to
that.
remove the motion? Withdraw the motion?
Yes, I'll withdraw the motion at this time if you'd like to send it to rules.
Right.
I'll make the motion.
To send it to rules?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
I'll move that we send the resolution on gun violence to rules for further review.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to send the gun violence resolution to rules for the further review. Barbara?
I have a comment.
I'm sorry. The further discussion.
Just
Councilor Rist.
Just a point of process. Counselors, especially our new counselors, when we bring something forward for a vote at the time of its presentation, you have the right to object. You don't, and that objection doesn't mean you're opposed to it. It means you want further discussion. And I believe, Counselor Denham, you absolutely wanted further discussion. So I think it would have been better in the future for us to just move it to rules right away. Because if any counselor feels that a resolution or something we're bringing up that we want to get done in one night, you're not sure of, that's why we have committees. Let's discuss it.
Thank you, Councilor Peak.
Not to call anyone out, but I do think we skipped the step where we asked if anyone had an objection to doing
That's
this
true.
on the first reading.
I know.
Times are tough. We all make mistakes. It's no, I think, the opportunity to take that thing was actually not.
But I also want to
But
make
point
it,
taken.
but I also want to make it clear, because you object to doing it at one night doesn't mean you object to the resolution. It means you want it to be discussed, and you had valid points, that's all. Okay?
Any other counselors?
We have a
Barbara?
Tom Peak.
Aye.
Brad Riley.
Aye.
Dan Rist.
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild.
Aye.
Owen Zaret.
Yes.
Connie Denham. Aye. Omar Gomez.
Aye.
JP Kaczynski.
Aye.
Motion passes. Any other counselor have any communications or anything to address to the council? Thank you. Councilor Kosinski?
Thank you, Mr. President. I wholeheartedly agree with Councilor Peak about the concerns in our community regarding the budget, regarding the choice, apparently, to reduce the staffing of the school by a number of teachers. It was my intent earlier today to bring forth a reconsideration measure, and the purpose of that I want to explain. I have recently heard the comment, skip the Teslas and save our teachers. If I had known about the budget carrying forth with a reduction in teachers as put forth in the budget, I would have found it impossible to have voted for the Tesla. I had, prior to that, believed that there was funding to save our teachers and that the mayor was putting forth that budget to do so. So that was my hope, was to consider that, to have that reconsideration. That being said, I will be very uncomfortable, as I agree, I believe Councilor Peak has said, to approve any supplemental appropriation that takes money away, potentially, from funds that could have been used for teachers in our school system. I think we have a base minimum that we need to meet, and I hope we can do that. I will be putting forth other measures as we proceed. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Kosinski. Any other counselor? Seeing none, we don't have the mayor tonight. Correspondence for announcement for the president and the vice president. The first one is in June 6th at 4 p.m. We're gonna have the raise of the pride flag here in City Hall. Everybody is invited to participate. It's gonna be again June 6th. That's a Monday at 4 p.m. In June 15, I'm calling to a special meeting for June 15 at 6 p.m. That meeting is going to be for the budget because the budget came to the council a little late. We have to have a special meeting to discuss the budget. We're going to have the meeting for discuss the budget and for the appropriation that we are going to send to the committee tonight. I just want to make that announcement. Again, we're going to have a special meeting on June 15 at 6 p.m. at this chamber. Report for standing committees. Finance, Councilor Rist.
Thank you, Mr. President. We are continuing our budget discussions tomorrow night. Big discussion on the education budget. I encourage councilors to attend. Also, we have a meeting on Monday for a couple of other sections. On June 8th, the Finance Committee will vote to recommend certain aspects of the budget. And lastly, on June 13th, I will be setting a meeting for the appropriations this evening so that we can spend a lot of time on the 8th discussing the motions for the budget. That's all I have until new business, Mr. President.
And the meeting is going to be in this room tomorrow.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, the meeting is in this room tomorrow.
I just want to, okay. Thank you, Councilor Rist.
And it's at 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock.
And it will also be on Google Meets.
Perfect. Thank you. Public Safety, Councilor Sarek.
Once again, we have not met since our last meeting. As previously noted, again, I'll announce our next meeting is Tuesday, June 7th at 6 p.m. in room 1. That will be the quarterly report from Fire Department. Just as a note too, and I'll announce it here as well, just to make sure there's no conflicts. I didn't see it on the city calendar. Normally our July meeting would have been on the 5th, but because that's for the police department quarterly review, but because of conflicts with the representatives for the PD, I'd like to move that to the 12th. It doesn't look like there's any conflicts with the calendar, Mr. President. And on the 7th, hoping to discuss some items from the Ordinance Review Committee, and also with our police report in July, I'm hoping to have a representative from a company that the vendor from the electric speed signs. So people might want to attend that as well, just to learn some information about that. Let me just look at the other items here. I reported out on these other issues regarding South and Main last time. Those are basically on hold right now. Everything is up to date. Nothing needs to be extended. So that concludes.
Thank you, Councilor Sarek. Councilor Rothschild, appointment.
Hi, President Gomez. In our last meeting, we had one appointment before us. There was the appointment of Robert Weil to the Commission on Disability. We voted 2-0 to recommend his appointment. He is very committed to the field of mental health and acts as a mental health peer. He knows from personal experience what it's like to have a documented disability and live in society with a documented disability, and he wants to lend his both personal and professional experience to our commission. So we were very pleased to recommend him. So I'd like to make a motion to confirm Robert Weil to the Commission on Disability with a term expiration December 31, 2022.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the majority appointment. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Barbara?
Brad Riley.
Aye.
Dan Rist.
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild.
Aye.
Owen Zaret.
Yes.
Connie Denham. Aye. Omar Gomez.
Aye.
JP Kaczynski.
Aye.
Tom Peak.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Our next meeting will be June 8th at 4 p.m. in Conference Room 1, and thus concludes.
Thank you. Ordinance, Councilor Peak.
Thank you, Mr. President. We haven't met since our last meeting, and I'm not aware of any scheduled meeting at this time, but hopefully we will meet soon. We've got some interesting things coming up.
Thank you, Councilor.
That concludes.
Thank you, Councilor Peak. Property, we don't have anything in property. We're gonna have a new business, but I talked to Councilor Kosinski, and we have to move the June 13th to another day because we are expecting probably the meeting for finance is gonna take more than 2 hours. So
On June 13th?
June 13th, yeah. So we're gonna we're gonna be a lot of people there. So we talk about that after. So rules and Councilor Rist.
Yes, we met this evening and approved the resolution in support of the Fair Share Amendment. We made minor adjustments, and I'd like to turn it over to Councilor Denham to read the resolution.
Councilor Denham.
Whereas Massachusetts needed new investments in our transportation and public education systems even before the COVID-19 pandemic, and those investments are needed more than ever to lift our economy into an equitable and long-lasting recovery. Whereas the best way to help working families and rebuild a strong economy for us all is to make sure that we have quality public schools for our children, affordable public higher education, and a reliable transportation system. And whereas for Massachusetts to compete against other regions around the nation and the globe, we need modern, reliable transportation, safer roads and bridges, public transportation that works, and safe ways to walk and bike around town. And whereas Easthampton has 4 structurally deficient bridges, the Glendale Road Bridge requires $3 million in repair, and bridges in Wunderlich, Torrey, and Fort Hill roads require $750,000 in improvements, in addition to ongoing needs in road and sidewalk repair. And whereas students need a well-rounded education founded on a rich and varied curriculum that includes science, technology, engineering, and math, STEM, music, art, and athletics. And whereas major investments in public education are needed to help students recover academically, socially, and emotionally from the COVID-19 pandemic. And whereas tuition and fees at our public colleges are among the highest in the country, forcing students to take on enormous debt just to receive a degree, which is significant for Easthampton students, as 41% are considered economically disadvantaged. And whereas new state revenue is necessary to rebuild crumbling roads and bridges, improve our public schools from pre-K through college, expand access to vocational and technical training, invest in fast and reliable public transportation, make public higher education affordable again, and expand opportunities for healthy walking and bicycling. And whereas wealthy Massachusetts residents saw their investments grow during the pandemic while working families struggled, and Massachusetts' wealthiest residents should pay their fair share to support our communities and grow our economy. Therefore, let it be resolved that the Easthampton City Council supports the proposed ballot question on the Fair Share Amendment to the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. This amendment would create an additional tax of 4 percentage points on annual income above $1 million and dedicate the funds raised by the tax to quality public education, affordable public colleges and universities, and for the repair and maintenance of roads, bridges, and public transportation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the resolution in support of the Fair Share Amendment. Any further discussion? Councilor Sarrett?
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I obviously want to thank Councilor Denham for this resolution. Look at the things we've been talking about recently. We have crumbling infrastructure within our city. We never have enough Chapter 90 funds to actually keep our roads in satisfactory condition, never mind create new roads. We recently learned about the Glendale Bridge that is going to need $3 million to fix. Where's that money going to come from? Not to mention needing to be a more bike-friendly city. We already are, but we lack adequate bike lanes in all over major parts of the city, including especially the Highway Business District. I have a child who goes to school in the park over there off of O'Neill, and there's no access there for bicycles or even really pedestrians to get down there from Route 10. And then certainly the main topic at hand is the schools. And we chronically are underfunded with Chapter 70 funds, plus chronically underfund our schools through a budget process, not necessarily through any fault of our own, but there's just no money there. And the rich keep getting richer, and the people who aren't rich keep getting less rich. And the disparity between those who have lots and lots of money and those who don't gets wider and wider. And so those who have money also have easier ways of sequestering their money and finding access to tax loopholes. Many have, as we all know, big businesses often pay no taxes. We know the story that they talk about all the time of the Jeff Bezoses out there, the Elon Musks out there who have these multi-billion-dollar monies that pay no taxes on them. So I think it's only reasonable that those who make over $1 million and who offer the backs of others should certainly pay their share back to our cities in Massachusetts. And I strongly not only encourage the councilors here to approve of this resolution, but to be very clear that it's imperative that we pass this ballot initiative come November. So, and thank you again, Councilor Denham.
Thank you, Councilor Saret. Any other councilor? Councilor Kosinski?
Mr. President. Was I acknowledged, Mr. President?
Yes.
Thank you. The need is there. If you look at our cities, if you look at our roads in our communities, the education budget, the roads, the bridges, the need is there. It is very clear that this proposed amendment does nothing to affect the first $1 million earned by a taxpayer. That remains the same. It is the additional funds. It'll also be important to send a clear message. This is approved unanimously and recommended for the populace to vote on in November. This is probably the single most important measure you can do to help our infrastructure and our education. 99% will not pay a single dime more. 99%. And yet, the public will be misled and told misinformation to help folks not understand the issue. Let me make it very clear. Vote yes for the amendment. Vote yes for the fair share. Vote yes for our students and our infrastructure.
Thank you, Councilor Kosinski. Any other councilor? Seeing none, Barbara?
Dan Rist?
Yes.
Lindsay Rothschild?
Yes.
Owen Zaret?
Yes.
Connie Denham? Yes. Omar Gomez?
Aye.
JP Kaczynski?
Yes.
Tom Peak?
Aye.
And Brad Riley?
Aye.
Motion passes. That's concluded.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
That's concluded. Thank you. Before going to new business, I just want to remind everybody that June 6th, 5 p.m., the Finance Committee is going to review the public safety part of the budget that is for the police department.
And
That's correct, right?
that was added because the chief had a
He was.
medical emergency
Yep.
and couldn't attend the meeting any
Yes.
other day.
Okay. For new business, Councilor Rist.
Where's the appointment?
That's the names.
Okay. I move that we send, it says one, but there's two names. Oh, okay. There are two appointments to be sent to the Appointments Committee. I move that Anthony Carella be sent to the Licensing Board for with the June 5th, 28 expiration, and Jessica Hebert to the Contributing Retirement Board for December 31st, 25 expiration.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to send the two appointment to the Appointments Committee. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Barbara?
Lindsay Rothschild,
Yes.
Owen Zaret.
Yes.
Connie Denham.
Aye.
Omar Gomez.
Aye.
JP Kaczynski.
Aye.
Tom Peak.
Aye.
Brad Riley.
Aye.
Dan Rist.
Aye.
Motion passes.
I move that the conflict of interest exemption request for the Conservation Commission Chair be sent to the Rules Committee for review.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to send the conflict of interest exception request to the Rules Committee. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Barbara?
Owen Zaret.
Yes.
Connie Denham.
Aye.
Omar Gomez.
Aye.
JP Kaczynski.
Aye.
Tom Peak.
Aye.
Brad Riley.
Aye.
Dan Rist.
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild.
Aye.
Motion passes.
I move that the elementary school reuse proposal, request for proposals be sent, and disposition votes be sent to the Property Committee for review.
Second. We have a motion and a second to send the elementary school reuse request for proposal and disposition votes to the Property Committee. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Barbara?
Connie Denham.
Aye.
Omar Gomez.
Aye.
JP Kaczynski.
Aye.
Tom Peak.
Aye.
Brad Riley.
Aye.
Dan Rist.
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild.
Aye.
Owen Zaret.
Aye.
Motion passes.
We have a request from Counselor Kwasinski to accept Chapter 329 of the Acts of 1987. Please send, move to send that to the Finance Committee for review.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to send the request for Councilor Kwasinski to accept Chapter 329 of Act of 1987 to the Finance Committee. Any further discussion? Councilor Sarat?
My only question is there may be more recent updated language that isn't substantially different, but that would, the only thing I would raise, just,
Yeah.
That'll be
It
part
does
of it.
become part of
It
Mass
is came
General
from
Law.
the MGL.
okay, I didn't know if that was an older version in the
Yeah,
packet.
no, that
that's
is.
It
No.
is.
all. Okay,
We can definitely double check that.
Yeah, but we can, yeah.
okay, okay.
Any other councilors? Barbara?
Omar Gomez.
Aye.
JP Kaczynski.
Aye.
Tom Peak.
Aye.
Brad Riley.
Aye.
Dan Rist.
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild.
Aye.
Owen Zaret.
Yes.
Connie Denham.
Aye.
Motion passes.
I'm going to make the following first readings of a number of appropriation requests. I'll read them all and then send them to finance and set a public hearing. The first is a $287,769.80 supplemental appropriation to be transferred from enterprise retained earnings to be transferred to the Cherry Street project, $287,769.80 for the following purpose. The Department of Public Works has worked closely with the Planning Department to secure grant funding from the Massachusetts Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness and Community Development Block Grant programs. Through this effort, we have been awarded $3,797,551 to reconstruct Cherry Street. Matching funding in the amount of $287,769.80 is necessary for construction to begin. The next supplemental appropriation is for $650,000 to be transferred from free cash, to be transferred to general stabilization, $260,000, and capital stabilization, $390,000. For the following purpose, to fund general stabilization to provide stability in the current environment, and to fund capital stabilization to meet capital needs. The next request is a supplemental appropriation of $10,873.19 to be transferred from free cash, to be transferred to injured on duty prior fiscal year bills, $10,873.19 for the following purpose, to cover the unexpected remaining medical expenses for injured on duty claims from prior fiscal years. Cabot Risk Insurance audit found deductibles that were outstanding. Next, Inter-Departmental Transfer is hereby made for $51,828.48 to be transferred from the PEG Access account, $51,828.48, to be transferred to the PEG Access account, $51,828.48, for the purpose to give approval to spend from PEG Access receipts reserved account for cable-related purposes consistent with franchise agreements. I move that the aforementioned supplemental appropriations and one interdepartmental transfer be sent to the Finance Committee for review. Did I skip one?
No.
And also be set for public hearing at 6 PM on June 15th. That's a motion.
I will second that, but I want to say something.
We have a motion and a second to send 5 supplemental appropriation to the Finance Committee to schedule a public hearing for June 15 at 6 p.m. I just want to remind all the councilors that this is just to move this item to the Finance Committee. We're not voting to approve this money tonight.
Correct.
Councilor Peak.
Earlier, I made a statement about me not being sure whether I can approve any sort of spending. And I had thought of potentially voting no right here on these to make a point. I'm going to change my mind on this. I'm going to vote to send these items there in hopes that between now and our next meeting, we can come to an understanding about our fiscal position where we feel good talking about it, especially since some of this, it's really best if it gets done before the end of the fiscal year. But I want to make it clear that I won't be voting to send these items back until we reach a understanding about how we're going to handle our schools. I just need to say that up front.
Thank you, Councilor Peak. Any other councilor? Councilor Denham?
Yeah, I support all of these except for the $650,000 going. I would support the other ones going. I don't think that those things should be held up. I am deeply concerned about the situation with schools, and I want to make clear that I'm disappointed with leadership on both sides. Like, I think that information has been very confusing. I recognize I'm new to this, and that's on me. But I feel like there has not been a free flow of information, and I think that I'm only hearing the tidbits of information that I need to hear in order to be swayed to a particular direction. But if there is real concern, I am, we talked about what happened in Texas, and we talked about what happened in Buffalo. I think that kids, our children, have real need. And until we get that situation figured out, I don't feel okay with sending free cash to the committee. So
Councilor
it's,
Denham, because of, do you want us to make a motion for each individual supplemental application? Because you look like you're gonna say no to one of them? And we make a motion to send it all at the same time to a committee?
I would prefer they go one at a time, but
Okay.
I also recognize
Just a
that other people
comment.
have different needs.
Before that, Councilor Sarah was first. Councilor Sarah?
I am in complete agreement with Councilor Denham, and what I would consider is a motion to amend the motion to refer these 4 items to committee, to amend it to postpone consideration of the $650,000 item to new business the first meeting of August.
Thank you. Councilor Rocha, I saw you, but I'm gonna let Councilor Rist first.
I just need to let councilors know, free cash is gone after June 30th. Free cash is part of the existing fiscal year. Once, if we don't use it, which is why it's being put into savings, it is gone. We don't see it again, so August wouldn't work. We don't see it again until November. If it's put into stabilization, it's there for us to use immediately on July 1 for the purposes I know you're thinking. So I encourage you to allow it to be at least debated. And when we bring it back, if you don't want to do it, then you vote no. But I encourage you to allow all of these to go to finance. Let's debate the subject, and let's talk about the concerns that Councilor Peak has, the fiscal concerns, but also what it means when we don't save money. We're saving money. We're not able to save it after June 1st, June 30th, I'm sorry, July 1st. So I'm only asking that we just debate it in committee. If, when it comes back on July 15th, you feel that you don't want to vote for it, that's when not to vote for it. Okay, that's all I'm asking.
Thank-
If you want to separate them out, okay, but I think that's the better process. That's my comment.
Thank you, Councilor Risk. Councilor Rothschild?
I appreciate Counselor Peak and Counselor Denham and Counselor Zaret's comments. And Counselor Risk, thanks for explaining. I appreciate that as well. I'm of the same mind of my fellow counselors. And I was not sure if I was going to vote to move things to committee or not, but if I can trust Counselor Peak, which I know I can, to stay to his word that he's not going to send things back until things are figured out. I know this is logistical and it moves from here to there, but just hearing this huge number of free cash and knowing the morale and disappointment and sadness among our teachers in our community. We keep talking about the kids, and of course the kids are important, but the teachers who have showed up every day through a pandemic and created a sense of normalcy for our kids and have to stand on a corner to fight for their jobs after a tiresome few years, it's really heartbreaking, to be honest. It's really, really heartbreaking. Our teachers are our first responders. And I agree also with Counselor Denham that leadership has been not clear on either side. We have the money. Teachers shouldn't be worried if they have a job.
Councilor Rothschild, I just want to remind you that we have a motion and a second just to move this.
You're right,
to-
I'm getting off hand. I just want to say I agree with them, and thank you, Counselor Peak. I will hold you to your word that you're not going to send things back till our leadership figures out and make sure our teachers feel secure. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Rothschild. Councilor Riley?
So I just have two questions specifically regarding this. The first question is, would there be any legislative process that we could take before July 1st that could appropriate $560,000 from free cash to the school? Or do we have to wait until after July 1st?
Wait, but no, because we have a motion and a second to move these appropriations to the Finance Committee.
Right.
I will answer that later, but now we have a motion and a second just to move this. If the council, one of the councils is gonna say no to one of these appropriation, I will ask to withdraw it. They withdraw the motion and do one by one, and we vote. And then you can ask the question. But now we have a motion and a second that we have to vote. Do we want to go to that way, or are you planning to vote one? You wanted to separate? I will take to the withdraw the motion, and we go do one by one.
I trust Counselor Rist's recommendation, so I'm happy to at least send it for the purposes of debate.
Respectfully, I would like to separate them out because I don't want to vote to move this forward until my questions are answered. So if we can.
Mr. President, point of order. I don't see why we can't answer his questions because it's pertaining to the subject of what the
Can you
meeting's
repeat the
about.
question?
So the first question is, we have over $560,000 that needs to be paid to the school for the budget, right? To make sure that we don't have teachers being removed from their jobs. Could we, before July 1st, appropriate, if the mayor were to request it, the $560,000 from free cash before July 1st, or do we have to wait until after July 1st to do that because it's fiscal year 2023?
I still believe that that question is not related to the motion and a second that we
Okay,
have.
then that's fine. Then I intend to vote no on the motion.
Point of order.
Councilor Saret?
Mr. President, I had a amendment to the original motion on the table. I just want to remove it so we can actually have a discussion. So I'd like to remove my amendment to postpone discussion, just so you know, that's all.
He had made an amendment.
Does anyone want to remove their motion and the second for this matter?
Can I ask a question?
Ask a question, Councilor Risk.
If I'm making a new motion, am I making a new motion for every single one of these independently or just the 650,000?
Let's do it independently. So do one by one.
Okay. I respectfully remove the motion. as requested. I need the second.
Remove my second.
We have to remove the motion, or we take a motion?
Since I've done a first reading, I'm just gonna
Yep,
use.
that's okay.
The only one I don't have, there's the
Can I
paper.
can I ask a question? Sorry.
Councilor,
So, because there's no motion on the table, can't he ask his question now?
no, because he's not part of the agenda.
Oh,
Open meeting law.
got it.
Sorry.
Get a little bit of, like, advertising
Yeah,
effect.
yeah, but by open meeting law, that's why, it's not part of the agenda. The
Ah, I
motion
see.
was just to move the item to the finance committee.
Yep.
So,
I get it,
Yeah.
I get it now.
So, let me just say that, like, supplemental, if there was to be, just so you know the process.
yeah, but I think we can do that later because it's not part of the agenda. We can discuss the process after the meeting,
Okay.
and you can talk to them.
Move it along.
Thank you.
I move that we send to the Finance Committee and set public hearing for June 15th for $287,769.80 for Cherry Street Reconstruction Project Grant Matching Funds.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to move the supplemental appropriation of $287,769 with 80 cents for the Cherry Street Reconstruction Project Grant Matching Funds to the Finance Committee. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Barbara?
JP Kaczynski,
Abstain.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Brad Riley,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Aye.
Owen Zaret,
Aye.
Connie Denham,
Aye.
Omar Gomez.
Aye. Motion passes. Councilor Rist?
I move that $650,000 from free cash to general capital stabilization funds be moved to Finance Committee and set for public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to move the supplemental appropriation of $650,000 from free cash to general and capital stabilization fund. Any further discussion? Councilor Sarat?
Just a point of clarification from the finance chair. So when exactly does free cash when do actions need to be taken on free cash for this fiscal year to?
June 30th. And if it's moved, well,
Councilor Kosinski, do you have a question? I think I saw your hand.
Well, were we in the discussion phase of the motion?
yes.
Yeah, we have a motion and a second to move the $650,000 to finance.
Right, so I have some discussion on the matter. I intend to vote no at this point. I believe that this matter could be brought to us on the 15th, and should that be something that the council wanted to pursue, we could vote on the matter at a meeting before the 30th of the month. I think it's important to send a clear message that we are not happy with the way the mayor has handled her budget. If that message is not sent now, I think we will not be making the best case scenario at this point. So I will vote no.
Councilor Peak?
Yeah, I just want to say my reason for voting yes on this is that I want to make a good faith gesture to say, can we figure this out before the 15th? And that's I understand and respect what Councilor Kwasinski is saying. I've just kind of got a different approach, but totally understand.
Councilor Rist?
I think, I'm going to say this out loud, it's fiscally irresponsible not to save money when we can. You can use general stabilization funds to fund anything, including the schools. And that can happen at any time. But free cash ends on June 30th. Not to at least debate it. And secondly, if you set the public hearing, that can be continued. So process-wise, you still have an option on June 15th if you're not happy. And we have to, if on June 15th, I'll just say it right now, if the budget's not passed, we have to have another meeting before July 1st, because if we don't have a budget passed by July 1st, the government shuts down. So we're going to have another meeting. So I'm just saying, let's not make an ultimate decision now. Let's debate it. And even on June 15th, if you're not happy, we could say, let's continue this until we hear something. But we can do it until the end of the month, and then we lose free cash. So I'd rather not lose the chance. I'm just asking you counselors to think about this. Don't lose the chance to save money that can be used for anything, including the schools. Because once it's gone, we don't get it back until November, and we don't know how much we're gonna get.
If I understand correctly, part of the motion on the table is also to set the public hearing for this item. Is it possible within parliamentary rules to specifically set the order for the item of the public hearing to occur after the votes on the school budget, so that we are clear about what monies may or may not be needed?
That's up to the president, and I believe it is true.
I can do that, yes.
Would you agree to
Yes.
that, Mr. President?
Yeah. Any other councilors? Barbara?
Let's see, Tom Peak,
Aye.
Brad Riley,
No.
Dan Rist.
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Aye.
Owen Zaret,
Yes to move to committee.
Connie Denham,
Yes.
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
J.P. Kaczynski.
No.
Just to clarify, it included the setting a public hearing.
Was that an aye?
Owen.
He say no.
He said no.
6-2, motion passes. Councilor Rist?
The next one is $10,873.19 for injured on-duty claims for prior fiscal years. It's an old bill to be sent to Finance Committee and set for public hearing on June 15th. I need a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to move the supplemental appropriation of $10,873.19 for injuries on duty claims for prior fiscal year. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Barbara?
Brad Riley,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Aye.
Owen Zaret,
Yes.
Connie Denham,
Aye.
Omar Gomez, J.P. Kaczynski,
Aye.
Tom Peak.
Aye.
Motion passes. Councilor Rist?
The next one is $17,000 to cover Medicare tax for remainder of fiscal year '22 to be set to Finance Committee and for public hearing on June 15th. I need a
We
second.
need a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to move the supplemental appropriation of $17,000 to cover Medicare tax for the remainder of fiscal year 2022. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Barbara?
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild,
Aye.
Owen Zaret,
Yes.
Connie Denham,
Aye.
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
J.P. Kaczynski, Tom Peak,
Aye.
Brad Riley.
Aye.
Motion passes.
The last one is $51,828.48. It's an interdepartmental transfer. I move that it be sent to the Finance Committee and set for public hearing for review.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to move 51, for the supplemental appropriation for the PEC access account of $51,828.48. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Barbara?
Lindsay Rothschild,
Aye.
Owen Zaret,
Yes.
Connie Denham,
Aye.
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
J.P. Kaczynski,
Aye.
Tom Peak,
Aye.
Brad Riley,
Aye.
Dan Rist.
Aye.
Motion passes. That will conclude the meeting. I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. Barbara?
Owen Zaret,
Yes.
Connie Denham,
Aye.
Omar Gomez,
Aye.
J.P. Kaczynski, Tom Peak,
Aye.
oh, sorry, Brad Riley,
Aye.
Dan Rist,
Aye.
Lindsay Rothschild.
Aye.
Motion passes. Have a great night. See you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Remind me not to make jokes.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.